Hey guys, tonight we're covering something truly dark, something that killed more people in 4 years than both world wars combined. The Black Death, the plague that turned Europe into a graveyard. Forget what you learned in history class. The sanitized version, the quick facts, the death toll reduced to a number. Tonight, we're going deep into the streets where bodies piled higher than houses, into the homes where entire families died in the same bed, into the minds of people who watched their world end. And here's the truth you need to hear right now. You wouldn't survive. Not a chance. Not with your immune system. Not with your modern sensibilities. Not with everything you think you know about disease and survival. So before we begin this journey into humanity's darkest chapter, take a moment, like this video, if you're ready for an honest look at history. Subscribe if you want more deep investigations into the moments that changed everything. And let me know in the comments, where are you watching from? What time is it? Are you alone? Because you're about to spend the next hour in 1348, and I promise you'll want to remember what safety feels like. Now, dim the lights, get comfortable, maybe grab some water, because your throat's going to go dry when you realize what people actually went through. Let's begin. It's October 1347. You're in Sicily, the port of Messina, to be exact. Beautiful day, Mediterranean sun warming the docks, merchants unloading goods from the east, silk, spices, stories of distant lands. Everything seems normal, profitable, even. Then the Genoese trading ships arrive, 12 of them, black sails catching the wind, and the moment they dock, you know something is wrong. The smell hits first, not the usual mix of salt water and fish and unwashed sailors. This is different, sweet and rotten at the same time. Like meat left in the sun for a week, mixed with something floral and sickly. The kind of smell that coats your throat. The dock workers approach cautiously. They tie the ropes. They call out. No response from most of the crew. Then they board. What they find will haunt them for the few days they have left to live. Most of the sailors are dead. Not recently dead. Days dead. Slumped over oars and cargo and each other. Their skin is wrong, blackened in places, swollen, covered in what look like burns or boils the size of apples. Dark purple, almost black, leaking fluid. The few sailors still alive aren't really alive in any meaningful sense. They're delirious, fevered, coughing up blood so dark it looks like tar. Their eyes are bloodshot and wild. They're begging for water in languages the Italians don't understand. Some are trying to claw at their own necks where the swellings have grown so large they can barely breathe. The authorities immediately order the ships to leave. Get out. Go back to sea. Die somewhere else. But it's too late. Way too late. Because while everyone was focused on the dying sailors, the real killers had already disembarked. Rats. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Pouring off those ships like a furry black tide. Scattering into the warehouses, the markets, the homes, and on those rats, in their fur, in their blood. Feeding on them were fleas, tiny, invisible, infected, each one carrying Yersinia pestis, the plague bacterium. And just like that, in the time it takes to tie up a ship, the Black Death has arrived in Europe. You have no idea what's coming. Nobody does. But you're about to find out that hell isn't a place you go when you die. Sometimes, hell comes to you. Let's pause here because you need to understand what the Black Death actually is. Not the myth, not the simplified version, the real biological nightmare. Yersinia pestis is a bacterium, tiny, invisible to the naked eye, but efficient, terrifyingly efficient. It evolved to live in fleas, specifically the fleas that live on rodents, rats mostly. When a flea bites an infected rat, it drinks blood contaminated with millions of plague bacteria. These bacteria multiply in the flea's gut so rapidly that they literally block its digestive system. The flea becomes desperately hungry because it can't digest anything, so it bites more and more, and with each bite it regurgitates thousands of plague bacteria directly into the bloodstream of its new host. Now here's where it gets worse. The plague doesn't just infect humans one way. There are 3 forms. 3 different ways to die. Let me introduce you to each one. First, bubonic plague. This is the classic version. the one that gave the Black Death its name. When infected flea bites you, the bacteria travel through your lymphatic system to your lymph nodes. Your body tries to fight back. White blood cells rush to the infection site. They die. The bacteria multiply. The lymph nodes swell and swell and swell. These swellings are called buboes. That's where we get bubonic. They appear in your groin, your armpits, your neck, anywhere you have major lymph nodes. They start as hard lumps, painful, then they grow, apple-sized, egg-sized, sometimes bigger. The skin over them turns black or deep purple from internal bleeding, hence the Black Death. They're hot to the touch, excruciating. People describe the pain as being stabbed with hot irons. Some buboes burst. When they do, they release a mixture of pus, blood and billions of bacteria. The smell is indescribable. Gangrene often sets in around the buboes. Your flesh literally dies while you're still alive, turns black, rots, falls off. If you're lucky, and that's a relative term, the bubonic form gives you maybe a week, 5 to 7 days from infection to death. Mortality rate, about 60 to 80%, but at least you have days. Time to pray, time to say goodbye, time to contemplate your sins. The second form doesn't give you that luxury. Septicemic plague. This is when the bacteria bypass your lymph nodes entirely and go straight into your bloodstream. Maybe you got bitten multiple times. Maybe your immune system was already compromised. Maybe you're just unlucky. Doesn't matter. Once plague bacteria are in your blood, you're living on borrowed time measured in hours, not days. Your blood becomes toxic. The bacteria multiply so fast they literally poison your entire circulatory system. Your organs start failing, one by one. Your skin turns black, not just around swellings, everywhere. Your fingers, your toes, your nose, your lips, they turn black and die. Gangrene, necrosis. Your own body rotting while your heart still beats. You bleed from everywhere. Your nose, your mouth, your eyes, under your skin. Those aren't bruises. That's your blood vessels rupturing from the inside. You vomit blood. You cough blood. You piss blood. You shit blood. Every fluid coming out of your body is contaminated, infectious, deadly. The pain is beyond description. Your entire body is on fire and freezing at the same time. Fever spikes to 104, 105 degrees. You're delirious, hallucinating, seeing demons, believing you're already in hell. And maybe you are. Septicemic plague kills in 24 to 48 hours, sometimes less. Mortality rate, basically 100%. There's no recovery. There's no fighting it off. You die, period. But there's a third form. The one that terrified people more than any other. The one that made the Black Death not just deadly but contagious in a way that turned humans into walking weapons. Pneumonic plague. This is when the bacteria reach your lungs. Maybe it spreads there from a bubonic infection. Maybe you breathed in droplets from someone else coughing. Maybe you handled a body and touched your face. The how doesn't matter. Once it's in your lungs, you're not just dying, you're dangerous. Pneumonic plague is the only form that spreads person to person. No fleas needed. No rats required. Just breathing. Just being near someone. The bacteria attack your lung tissue. Inflammation. Fluid buildup. Your lungs fill with bloody fluid. You're drowning from the inside. Each breath becomes harder. Each cough brings up more blood. Dark, thick, foul-smelling. You spray it into the air with every cough. Each cough releases millions of bacteria. Anyone nearby breathes them in. They're infected. They'll be coughing blood in 2 days. Dead in 4. Pneumonic plague moves through communities like wildfire. Entire households wiped out in a week. Entire neighborhoods in 2. The mortality rate, 95 to 100%. And it's fast. Symptoms to death in 3 to 4 days. Sometimes less. You wake up feeling tired. By noon you're coughing. By evening there's blood. By the next morning you can't breathe. By the day after you're dead. Now imagine you're living in 1347. You don't know about bacteria. You don't know about germs. You don't understand contagion. You think disease is caused by bad air, or God's wrath, or the alignment of planets. You have no antibiotics, no vaccines, No hospitals with ventilators and IV fluids. No understanding of quarantine beyond locking sick people in their homes to die. You're about to face all three forms of this disease. Simultaneously, in your city, in your neighborhood, in your home. And there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Let's go back to you. It's November 1347 now. You're still in Sicily. Messina specifically. About 3 weeks since those ships arrived. At first, people who worked the docks got sick. That made sense. They touched the dead sailors, the cargo, the ships. Of course they got sick. They died. Terrible, but contained. Or so everyone thought. Then their families got sick. Wives, children, parents. The families of the dock workers had buboes. Same symptoms. Same black swellings. Same agonizing deaths. Then the neighbors. Then the neighbors. The neighbors. It's spreading. Fast. The city's physicians are baffled. They've seen plague before. It's not uncommon in medieval times, but never like this. Never spreading this fast. Never killing this efficiently. They try everything they know. Bloodletting. The theory is that you have too much blood, and it's corrupted, so removing some will restore balance. They make cuts in your arms, your legs, near the buboes. They let you bleed into bowls, pints of blood. You're already dying from the plague. Now you're dying from blood loss too. But the physicians insist. It's the treatment. It has to work. It doesn't. They try poultices, mixtures of herbs, animal fat, and sometimes ground up precious stones, because surely expensive ingredients must be powerful. They slather this paste onto your buboes. It does nothing except make the smell worse. They try lancing the buboes, cutting them open to drain the poison. This actually sometimes helps with the pain, but it also spreads infection. The physician's knife goes from one patient to the next, never cleaned, carrying plague bacteria from person to person. They're trying to help. They're making it worse. Some physicians recommend sitting next to a fire. Heat will drive out the disease, they say. So you sit there, fevered, burning up already, next to a roaring fire, in your tiny home. You're cooking yourself alive. Some recommend bathing in urine, yours or someone else's. Doesn't matter. The ammonia will cleanse you. You smell like piss and death. You still have the plague. Others recommend prayer, flagellation, beating yourself with whips to show God you're repentant. Because obviously this is punishment for sins. You whip yourself until you bleed. Open wounds, more entry points for infection. You're helping the disease kill you. By December, Messina is dying. Not individuals. The city itself, 1/3 of the population is dead. Another third is infected. The final third is terrified. Bodies are everywhere. In houses, in streets, in churches. There aren't enough grave diggers. There aren't enough priests to perform last rites. There aren't enough coffins, shrouds, or burial plots. Families try to bury their own dead. They dig shallow graves in their gardens, their yards, anywhere they can. The ground is hard. Winter is coming. The graves are too shallow. Dogs dig up the bodies. Rats feast on them. More infection spreads. Some people just give up. They stop burying the dead. Bodies rot where they fall. In doorways, in alleys. A woman collapses in the market. No one touches her. She's dead by evening. She's still there 3 days later, decomposing, covered in flies. People step around her. What else can they do? The city government tries to respond. They hire carts to collect bodies. Men drive through streets ringing bells, shouting, "Bring out your dead." Families carry bodies to the street, toss them onto the cart. The bodies pile up, arms and legs hanging over the sides, heads lolling. The carts go to mass graves outside the city. Trenches, really. Long, deep trenches. Bodies are thrown in. No ceremony. No prayers. No individual graves. Just layer upon layer of corpses. Hundreds in each trench. Thousands total. Lime is poured over them to speed decomposition and mask the smell. It doesn't mask the smell. Nothing masks the smell. The entire city reeks of death. Sweet and putrid. Rot and disease. It seeps into your clothes, your hair, your skin. What skin? You taste it when you eat. You smell it when you sleep. It's everywhere. Inescapable. Now let's talk about what happens to society. To normal life. To everything you take for granted. The markets close. Why? Because the vendors are dead. The customers are dead. The food is rotting because the farmers who grew it are dead. The carters who transported it are dead. The entire supply chain has collapsed. Shops shutter. Blacksmiths stop working. Why make horseshoes when there's no one to buy them? Bakers close. Why bake bread for ghosts? The taverns, the gathering places, they're empty. People are too afraid to congregate. Every crowd might contain someone infected. Every handshake might be deadly. Every conversation might expose you to plague. Schools close. Churches. This is interesting. Some churches stay open, packed, even. People flood in to pray, to beg God for mercy, to confess their sins. They're shoulder to shoulder, breathing the same air, coughing, touching, sharing communion wine from the same cup, kissing the same holy relics. It's a perfect environment for pneumonic plague. Some priests keep showing up, hearing confessions, administering last rites, visiting the sick. They die in droves. The faithful priests, the dedicated ones, they're the first to go. The ones who maintain distance, who refuse to touch the sick, they survive. What kind of lesson is that? Other churches close entirely. The priests flee, abandon their congregations, run for the countryside, hope the plague stays in the cities. It doesn't, because people are fleeing too. Wealthy merchants, noble families, anyone with means, they see the death, they pack their valuables, they take their servants, they leave. They don't realize they're bringing the plague with them. That flea in the fold of their cloak, that infected servant who hasn't shown symptoms yet, that contaminated blanket. They reach the countryside, small villages, isolated farms, places that had never heard of the Black Death. Within weeks, those places are dying too. Let's put you in this situation. Really in it. You're a merchant. Successful. You have a nice house in Messina. A wife, 3 children, a servant or 2. You've been watching the plague spread. You're not stupid. You can see the pattern. First the docks, then the poor neighborhoods. Now it's moving toward the center of the city, toward your neighborhood. Your wife begs you to leave. You agree, you pack. Clothes, some money, food for the journey. You hire a cart. You leave just before dawn. Your plan is to go to your brother's estate in the countryside. He has land, isolation, safety. The journey takes 3 days. You travel through small towns. Each one seems quieter than you remember. Fewer people, more shuttered homes, but no obvious plague. You start to relax. Maybe you escaped. Maybe you're safe. You reach your brother's estate. He's not happy to see you. He's heard about the plague. He doesn't want you there, but your family. He lets you stay, sets you up in a cottage on the far edge of his land, away from his house, away from his family, just in case. That first night you sleep well. First time in weeks. Your children play in the fields. Your wife cooks a proper meal. You think you made it. You're safe. Day 3, your youngest daughter complains of a headache. Feels warm. You tell yourself it's nothing. Just tired from the journey. Day 4, she has a fever and a lump in her neck. A bubo. You know what it is, immediately. Your wife screams. Your brother comes to investigate, sees the bubo, locks you in the cottage. All of you. He won't let you leave, won't let his family near you. He leaves food at the door. That's all. Your daughter dies on day 6. She's 8 years old. You have to watch her suffer, listen to her cries, hold her burning body. You have nowhere to bury her. You wrap her in a blanket and put her in the corner of the cottage. The next day, your son shows symptoms, then your wife, then you. You all die within a week of each other. Your brother's servants burn the cottage with your bodies inside. They're trying to contain it. It doesn't work. 2 of the servants are already infected. Your brother's family is dead within a month. The village nearby is gone in 2 months. This is what the Black Death does. It doesn't just kill you. It kills everything you love, everyone you know. It destroys families, communities, hope. Let me describe the symptoms in excruciating detail, because the history books say fever and buboes, and that sanitizes what actually happens to your body. You need to understand the horror. Day 1 of bubonic plague, you wake up feeling off. Not sick exactly, just wrong. Tired, achy, like you're coming down with something. Your head hurts, your back hurts, you're cold even though it's not cold. You think it's nothing. Everyone gets sick sometimes. Day 2. The fever hits. Suddenly, violently. One moment you're mildly uncomfortable. The next you're burning up. 103 degrees. 104. Your skin is hot to the touch. You're sweating through your clothes. Your blankets are soaked. But you're shivering. Teeth chattering. You pile on more blankets. More clothes. You can't get warm. Your headache is now a migraine. Pounding. Relentless. Light hurts. Sound hurts. Movement hurts. You want to lie still in a dark room and never move again. Your muscles ache, not sore from exercise ache. Deep, bone-deep pain, like someone beat you with clubs while you slept. Every joint hurts. Your back feels like it's breaking. You can't find a comfortable position. Lying down hurts. Sitting up hurts. Standing is impossible. You're exhausted, but you can't sleep. The pain won't let you. The fever won't let you. Your mind is racing. Delirious. You're having trouble thinking straight. Trouble remembering things. You called for your wife 3 times, because you forgot she already came. Time becomes fluid. Minutes feel like hours. Hours disappear. You're vomiting. Your stomach is empty, but you keep retching. Bile and stomach acid. It burns. Your throat is raw. Day 3. This is when the buboes appear. You feel it first as a deep ache in your groin, or your armpit, or your neck. You reach down to touch the area, and there's a lump, hard, about the size of a walnut. Tender, painful when you press on it. Over the next few hours it grows. Walnut to egg, egg to apple. The skin over it is stretched tight. Shiny, hot. It's changing color. Pink at first, then red, then purple, then a dark, almost black purple. It looks wrong, alien, like something that shouldn't exist on a human body. The pain is constant now. Throbbing, sharp. It radiates out from the bubo. Down your leg if it's in your groin. Down your arm if it's in your armpit. Up into your jaw if it's in your neck. You can't touch it. Can't bear pressure on it. But you also can't stop touching it. Checking if it's grown, hoping somehow it's smaller. It never is. You develop more buboes. Lymph nodes throughout your body are swelling, fighting, losing. Each new bubo brings the same cycle. The ache, the lump, the growth, the color change, the pain. Some buboes press on nerves. The pain becomes electric, shooting, like lightning through your limbs. You scream. You can't help it. The pain makes you scream. Your family hears you. They're helpless, terrified. They know what these buboes mean. Your fever is worse. 105 degrees now. You're hallucinating, seeing things that aren't there. Dead relatives, demons, angels. Sometimes you know they're not real. Sometimes you're convinced they are. You're talking to people who aren't in the room, having conversations that make no sense. Your wife tries to give you water. You don't recognize her. Day 4. If the buboes are going to burst, it happens around now. The pressure builds and builds. The skin can't hold. It ruptures. Thick yellow-green pus, mixed with blood, pours out. The smell is unholy. Rotten meat. Sewage. Death. It makes people gag. It clings to everything. The bedding, the air. The relief is immediate when it bursts. The pressure's gone. The sharp pain dulls to a throb, but you're not saved. You're worse. The open wound is infected. Gangrene is setting in. The tissue around the bubo is dying, turning black. The blackness spreads. Your fingers if it's in your armpit. Your toes if it's in your groin. They're cold, numb. Then they're not part of you anymore. Dead tissue. Still attached but lifeless. The septicemia is setting in now. Plague bacteria in your bloodstream. Your blood is thick, clotting abnormally. Clots form in your blood vessels. Block circulation. More tissue dies. Your skin is mottled. Blotchy. Patches of normal skin next to patches of purple or black. You're bleeding under your skin. Peachy. Tiny hemorrhages. They look like freckles from hell. You're bleeding from your nose. Not a nosebleed. Continuous oozing. Dark blood. Almost black. You're coughing up blood. Thick. Sticky. It's in your lungs now. Pneumonic plague is developing, your breathing is labored, wet, rattling. Each breath sounds like you're drowning, because you are. Your own fluids filling your lungs. You're suffocating slowly. Day 5. You're dying. Everyone knows it. You might not be conscious enough to know it. The fever has destroyed your brain function. You're not really there anymore, just a body. A failing, rotting body. Your organs are shutting down. Kidneys first, usually. You stop urinating. Toxins build up in your blood. More delirium. More hallucinations. Your liver is failing. Your skin and eyes turn yellow. Jaundiced. You look like a corpse already. Your heart is struggling. Weak pulse. Irregular. Sometimes it seems to stop, then starts again. Your blood pressure is crashing. Shock is setting in. Your extremities are cold, blue. Your core temperature is still burning, but your hands and feet are ice. Your breathing is very slow, very shallow. Long pauses between breaths. Agonal breathing. The death rattle. Your family is gathered around you. If they're not sick themselves, if they're brave enough to stay, some families abandon their plague victims. Too afraid, too disgusted, too broken to watch. You might die alone. You might die surrounded by people who love you but can't touch you, can't comfort you, can't do anything but watch. Day 6 or 7. Death. Your heart stops. Your breathing ceases. The fever finally breaks. Your body temperature drops. You're gone. But the plague isn't done with you. Your corpse is still infectious. Highly infectious. The bacteria live on in your body for days. Anyone who prepares your body for burial risks infection. Anyone who touches your clothes, your bedding, anything contaminated with your fluids. The flea that bit you might still be alive. In your clothes, your hair, ready to bite whoever handles your body. You're dead, but you're still dangerous. Now let's talk about what happens to your mind. The psychological horror of the Black Death. You're living in 1348. You understand that you're watching people die, your neighbors, your friends, maybe your family, but you don't understand why. The explanations make no sense. Some say it's bad air, miasma, vapors rising from swamps or graves or decaying matter. So people avoid swamps. They hold flowers to their noses to ward off the bad smell. Doesn't help. Some say it's the alignment of planets. Saturn and Jupiter in a bad configuration, creating corrupt air. There's nothing you can do about planets. You just have to wait it out. Some say it's God's punishment. Sin, wickedness, the end times. This explanation makes sense to medieval people. The world is ending because humanity has strayed from God. The solution: repent, pray, flagellate, purify. Groups of flagellants roam from town to town, men and women whipping themselves bloody, marching through streets, chanting prayers. Sometimes these processions number in the thousands. They believe their suffering will appease God, will stop the plague. It doesn't. Sometimes the flagellants spread the plague. They travel from infected areas to clean ones. They sleep in churches, share food, touch people. They're vectors, but they believe they're saving humanity. The psychological weight of believing this is God's punishment is crushing. You examine your life for sins. What did you do to deserve this? Why is your family dying? What evil did you commit? You can't think of anything proportional to this horror. So maybe it's not your sin, maybe it's collective sin. All of humanity's wickedness brought this down. That's somehow worse. You're suffering for other people's crimes. There's no justice, no fairness, just random arbitrary death. The uncertainty is maddening. You don't know how it spreads. Theories contradict. Some say don't touch the sick. Some say proximity is dangerous. Some say looking at a plague victim can infect you. Just eye contact. Just seeing the boo-boos. You don't know what to believe. So you're paralyzed. Do you help your sick neighbor? If you do, you might die. If you don't, you're a monster. Your neighbor is screaming in pain, alone, dying without comfort. You could help. Should you? Your family needs you. If you get infected helping the neighbor, your children will be orphaned. Is one person's comfort worth your children's lives? These are impossible choices. No right answer, just guilt either way. You start to see death everywhere. Every cough is plague, every headache, every moment of fatigue. You're checking your lymph nodes constantly, feeling for lumps, checking your skin for discoloration, examining every ache. Is this the plague, or just normal tiredness? You can't tell. The anxiety is constant, relentless. You can't sleep. When you do sleep, you have nightmares. Bodies, death. You wake up sweating, convinced you're infected. You check for lumps. Nothing. Relief. Then the anxiety starts again. By noon you're checking again. And again. And again. The paranoia spreads faster than the plague. You can't trust anyone. Your best friend might be infected. Hiding symptoms. Spreading disease. That stranger on the street. Definitely infectious. That vendor at the market. His slight cough. That's plague. You're sure of it. You avoid people. Everyone. You lock your door. Stay inside. Only go out for absolute necessities. Food, water. Even then you're terrified. Every trip outside might be the one that kills you. The social breakdown is complete. Centuries of social bonds, religious obligations, family ties, all of it evaporates in the face of plague. Parents abandon children. Children abandon parents. Not because they're monsters, because the survival instinct overrides everything. Your daughter is sick. Plague sick. The buboes are clear. She's going to die. You have 2 other children. Healthy. If you stay with your daughter, comfort her, care for her, you'll get infected. Then you'll infect your healthy children. They'll all die. If you leave your daughter, lock her in a room alone. Let her die without comfort. Your other children might survive. What do? Some parents make that calculation. Lock away the sick child. Ignore the screams. Ignore the begging. Let them die alone. The guilt destroys them. But the living children survive. Sometimes, other parents can't do it. They stay, comfort the dying child. Get infected. The whole family dies together. Is that love, or foolishness? Who's to say? Marriages dissolve. Not legally. There's no time for legal process. But functionally, your spouse is sick. You leave, you have to. Survival. Some spouses stay, nurse their dying partner. Most get infected. Die within days of each other. After a while, people stop marrying. Why? To love someone is to invite pain. To marry is to chain yourself to someone who will probably die, who might infect you. Love becomes dangerous. Community obligations vanish. That tradition of bringing food to sick neighbors. Gone. That practice of sitting with the dying. Gone. The idea of preparing bodies for burial, showing respect to the dead. Gone. Bodies are dumped in mass graves like trash, because they are trash. Infectious trash. Dangerous even in death. The economy collapses utterly. Money becomes meaningless. What good is gold when there's no food to buy? What good are jewels when the jeweler is dead? People are walking away from wealth, abandoning businesses, leaving full shops unlocked. Take whatever you want. I'm fleeing. Some people do. Looting is rampant. Not the organized crime kind, the survival kind. That bakery's owner is dead. The bread inside will rot. Might as well take it. That warehouse full of grain. Owner dead. Family dead. No one to claim it. It's free for the taking. Property rights collapse. Inheritance becomes a dark joke. You inherit from your father. You die 3 days later. Your brother inherits from you. He dies 2 days after that. His daughter inherits. She's dead within the week. One estate passes through 7 owners in a month. Land lies fallow. Why plant crops when you might not live to harvest? Why harvest when there's no one to sell to? The 1348 harvest is terrible. 1349 is worse. Fields full of wheat, rotting, no one to cut it. The laborers are dead. Even when food exists, distribution is broken. How does grain get from the countryside to the city? Carters, who are dead. How does bread get from bakers to markets? Bakers are dead. Markets are closed. You can starve surrounded by food. Just because the system that delivered food has collapsed. Some regions experience actual famine on top of plague. Double nightmare. Dying of starvation while also dying of disease. Choose your death. Actually, you don't choose. You get both. Let's talk about the doctors. The physicians. The people who are supposed to help. First, understand that medieval medicine is barely medicine. It's based on ancient Greek theories. The four humours: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile. Health is balance between the humours. Disease is imbalance. Treatment is restoring balance. This works fine for minor ailments. Rest, diet, mild herbs. But plague, the four humours theory has no answer for plague. Physicians are baffled. They try everything. Bloodletting is the go-to. You're fevered, hot, that's too much blood. Too much of the hot, wet humour. Solution: remove blood. They cut you, let you bleed into bowls. A pint. 2 pints. You're already dying from plague. Now you're dying from exsanguination. They try purging, give you substances to make you vomit, make you defecate, expelling the corrupt humours. You're vomiting already from plague. Now you're vomiting from IPEC. 2. You're shitting blood from plague. Now you're shitting from laxatives. Dehydration, electrolyte imbalance, weakness. You're worse. They try cautery, burning. The bulbos are full of corruption. Burn them out. They heat irons in the fire, red hot. Press them to your bulbos, to your open sores. The smell of burning flesh. Your flesh. The pain is unspeakable. Does it help? No. It creates more wounds, more infection. They try poultices. Every physician has a secret recipe. Ground emeralds, unicorn horn, actually narwhal tusk, gold leaf, crushed pearls, mixed with animal fat or egg whites, slathered on bulbos. None of it works. Precious materials can't cure bacterial infection, but physicians keep trying. They have to. It's their job, their identity. Some physicians flee, many flee. They see the death rate among their colleagues. They understand, treating plague victims is a death sentence. So they leave, abandon their cities, their patients, their duty. The ones who stay, some are brave, some are stupid, some are religious. Believe God will protect them. God doesn't. Physicians die at astounding rates, higher than average population, because they're in close contact with the infected, breathing the same air, touching plague bodies, lancing bulbos, getting splattered with infectious fluids. They have no protection, no gloves, no masks, no concept of sterilization. Their surgical tools go from patient to patient without cleaning. They're spreading plague, helping it jump from person to person, with the best intentions. Some physicians develop protective outfits. The famous plague doctor costume, long black coat, wide-brimmed hat, and the mask, the beaked mask. It looks terrifying, like a bird, a monster. That's not accidental. The design has purpose. The beak is stuffed with herbs, flowers, strong-smelling substances. The theory is the good smell will overpower the bad air. The miasma will protect the doctor. It doesn't, but psychologically it helps. The doctor feels protected, can work. The coat is heavy leather, waxed. The theory is the wax creates a barrier, prevents the bad air from penetrating. Doesn't work. But again, it lets the doctor feel safer. The whole outfit creates distance, psychological and physical. You're not a human treating humans. You're a creature, other, separate. It helps doctors cope, helps them not think too hard about what they're doing. Touching dead bodies, lancing plague buboes, knowing they'll probably die. The outfit becomes iconic, terrifying. When people see a plague doctor, they know death is near. Children have nightmares about the beaked mask, the long black shape. It becomes associated with the plague itself, with death. Even though the doctors are trying to help, they become figures of fear, harbingers. The outfit doesn't save them. Plague doctors die. A lot. Some make it through. Luck, mostly. Maybe they never got bit by an infected flea. Maybe their immune system was just different. But for every plague doctor who survives, 10 die. The mortality rate is catastrophic. Now let's discuss what happens to religion. To faith. Remember, this is the 14th century. Religion isn't just part of life. It is life. Everything is understood through a religious lens. God controls everything. God sends blessings and punishments. The plague is clearly a punishment. God is angry. At what? Sin, wickedness, corruption. The church has answers. Pray more, confess, repent, give money to the church, attend mass, show devotion. God will lift the plague. People do this. They pack churches, pray for hours, confess every tiny sin they can remember, give their money, their property, everything to the church. The plague continues. More people die. The prayers don't work. This creates a crisis. If prayers don't work, if devotion doesn't work, if God isn't listening, what does that mean? Some people double down. We're not praying hard enough. We're not sincere enough. We need to do more. The flagellants emerge. Groups of people who whip themselves. Publicly. They process through towns stripped to the waist, beating themselves with leather whips embedded with metal. They bleed. They scream. They pray. They believe this extreme suffering will move God, will stop the plague. It doesn't. The flagellants spread the plague. They travel from town to town. They sleep in groups. They share everything. Infected flagellants bring plague to new areas, but they keep whipping, keep praying, keep believing. Other people lose faith, not quietly, loudly, angrily. God isn't listening. God doesn't care. Or worse, God isn't there. This is heresy, dangerous heresy. But the plague makes people brave. What's the church going to do? Excommunicate you? You're dying anyway. Burn you as a heretic. You'll be dead from plague first. People start questioning everything. If God isn't stopping the plague, what good is the church? What good are priests? Why give them money? Why follow their rules? Church authority begins to erode. Not everywhere, not all at once, but the cracks form. The Reformation is still 2 centuries away, but the plague plants seeds. Priests are dying faster than almost anyone else. Why? Because they perform last rites. It's their duty. Someone is dying, you call a priest. The priest comes, hears confession, administers communion, anoints with oil, prays over the body. All of this requires close contact, face to face, breathing the same air, touching. If it's pneumonic plague, the priest is being coughed on, directly exposed. Priests die in droves. Entire monasteries are wiped out. A monastery might have 50 monks. Within a month, 40 are dead. The remaining 10 flee. The monastery sits empty. In cities, parishes lose their priests. No one to perform mass. No one to hear confessions. No one to administer last rites. This is spiritually catastrophic for medieval people. To die without last rites means your soul might go to hell. Unconfessed sins. No absolution. Eternal damnation. The fear of this is as bad as the fear of death. Maybe worse. At least death ends. Hell is forever. People die screaming for a priest, begging for confession. No priest comes, can't, they're all dead, or fled. The dying face the plague and the terror of dying unshriven, going to hell. The church tries to respond, calls for more priests, ordains priests quickly, too quickly, with minimal training. These emergency priests don't know Latin properly, don't know the rituals, don't understand theology, but there are bodies. Someone has to pray over them. These poorly trained priests do what they can. Some are sincere, some are opportunists. See the priest shortage as a chance for power, money. They charge exorbitant fees for last rites, for funeral services. People pay. What choice do they have? Some of these emergency priests are corrupt, embezzle from the church, sleep with women, drink, abuse their position. The quality of the clergy plummets. People notice. Respect for the church drops further. Let's talk about the Jews, because the Black Death doesn't just kill through disease. It kills through scapegoating, through violence, through genocide. People are desperate for explanations. For someone to blame, the plague can't just be random, can't just be bacteria, has to be caused by someone. Jews become the target. The accusation Jews poisoned the wells, deliberately, to kill Christians. Why would Jews do this? The logic doesn't matter. Fear doesn't need logic. Rumors spread. In this town someone saw a Jew near a well. The next day people got sick. Proof. In that town a bag of powder was found near a well. Must be poison. Must be Jews. Never mind that Jews are dying too. Dying at similar rates. Dying from the same plague. The accusation takes hold anyway. Pogroms begin. Mobs form. Christians attack Jewish neighborhoods. Homes are burned. Synagogues destroyed. Jews are rounded up, accused, tortured. Confessions are extracted. Under torture, people confess to anything. Yes, we poisoned wells. We did it. Make the pain stop. These confessions are used as proof. See, they admitted it. More violence. Mass executions. In Strasbourg, 900 Jews are burned alive in a single day. February 14th, 1349. Valentine's Day. They're herded into a wooden building. The doors are locked. The building is set on fire. 900 people burn. Men, women, children. Screaming, dying. The Christian townspeople watch. Some celebrate. In Basel, Jews are locked in a wooden building, on an island in the Rhine. The building is set on fire. The island becomes a crematorium. Across Europe, Jewish communities are destroyed. Thousands dead. Tens of thousands. Some cities expel their Jews before mobs can kill them. Leave or die. Jews flee, scatter, take their skills, their knowledge, their wealth elsewhere. The cities that protected their Jewish populations actually fare better during the plague. Why? Jews are often more educated, better understanding of hygiene, more likely to quarantine, more careful. The cities that kill their Jews lose this knowledge. Fare worse, but mob logic doesn't care about outcomes, just about blood. The plague creates other scapegoats too. Beggars, lepers, foreigners, anyone different, anyone suspicious. People are tortured into confessing. They spread poison. They caused the plague. They're in league with the devil. Mass executions, burnings, hangings. The plague kills millions through disease. The panic kills thousands more through violence. Civilization is eating itself. Order is breaking down completely. Laws aren't enforced. Courts are closed. Judges are dead. Who enforces laws when the law enforcers are dying? Crime explodes. Not petty theft. Violent crime. Murder. Rape. Arson. What's the punishment? You're dying anyway. Might as well take what you want. Do what you want. Some people embrace nihilism. Nothing matters. We're all going to die. Hedonism spreads. Why not drink? Why not feast? Why not have sex with whoever you want? You'll be dead soon. Live now. Orgies in the streets. Parties in plague houses. Dancing with corpses. It sounds insane. It is insane. But it's also a response to unbearable horror. If everything is terrible, if death is certain, why not grab pleasure while you can? Others go the opposite direction. Extreme piety, extreme self-denial, fasting, praying constantly, sleeping on stones, wearing hair shirts, flagellation, suffering now to avoid suffering in the afterlife. Society splits. Some people party. Some people pray. Most people just try to survive. Minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, not thinking about tomorrow because tomorrow might not come. Let's put you back in a specific situation. You're in Florence, spring 1348. Florence is beautiful. Renaissance is coming. Art, architecture, banking. Florence is wealthy, sophisticated, cultured. The plague doesn't care. Florence dies like everywhere else. Maybe worse. The city is dense. People packed together. Perfect conditions for plague. You're a cloth merchant. Successful. You have a house near the Arno. A wife. 4 children. Business is good. Was good. Now, the market is dead. Literally, your business partners are dead. Your suppliers are dead. Your customers are dead. You have a warehouse full of cloth. Beautiful cloth. Flemish wool. Silk from the East. Nobody's buying. Nobody's buying anything. You consider fleeing, taking your family to your cousin's farm in Tuscany. Your wife is against it. Florence is home. We have everything here. It's safer to stay. Lock the doors. Wait it out. You defer to her. You stay. Your neighbor dies. The one on your left. His whole family. Father, mother, 5 children. All dead within 2 weeks. Their house sits empty. You see rats coming and going through the windows. The smell is terrible. Your other neighbor, the widow, she gets sick. You hear her crying through the wall, calling for help. You don't help. Can't. Your family, your children. You have to protect them. She dies alone. You hear when her crying stops. 3 days later, the silence is worse than the crying. Your youngest son develops a fever. He's 6 years old, named after your father. Good boy. Smart. You watch the fever climb. You check for buboes. Nothing yet. Maybe it's not plague. Maybe it's just a fever. Children get fevers. He's burning up. Delirious. Calling for you. You hold him. Your wife begs you not to. You'll get infected. You hold him anyway. He's your son. He dies in your arms. No buboes ever appeared. Maybe it wasn't plague. 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 He's dead. You bury him in the garden. Illegal. But where else? The graveyards are full, overflowing. Bodies are stacked. You dig the grave yourself. Shallow. The ground is hard. Your hands blister. You wrap your son in his favorite blanket, lower him in, cover him with earth. Your wife won't come outside. Can't. She's broken. Your 3 remaining children are terrified. They saw their brother die. They know they might be next. You try to comfort them. Tell them it'll be okay. They don't believe you. You don't believe you. A week later, your oldest daughter, 13, beautiful girl, engaged to the son of a silk merchant, was engaged. The boy's family is dead. She develops burbos, one in her neck, one in her groin. She's in agony, screaming. You give her wine to dull the pain. It doesn't help. The physician you call is drunk. He lances the burbos, doesn't clean the knife first or after, charges you an exorbitant fee, leaves. Your daughter dies that night. You bury her next to her brother. Your wife is catatonic, staring at walls, not eating, not speaking. Your 2 remaining children huddle together, 12-year-old son, 8-year-old daughter, terrified, waiting for their turn. You try to keep routine, make breakfast, force them to eat, pray together, act like things are normal. Things aren't normal. Your son develops a cough, dry at first, then wet, then bloody, pneumonic plague, the worst kind. He coughs blood onto his sister, onto you, onto your wife. He dies in 3 days, drowning in his own fluids, gasping for air. You bury him. 3 graves in your garden now. Your daughter is next. Fever, burbos, delirium. She asks for her siblings. Where are they? You lie. They're fine. They're outside. She doesn't remember they're dead. Mercy, perhaps. She dies calling for her mother. Your wife never responded. Your last child, your baby, dead. You bury her. 4 graves. The garden is full. Your wife dies next. Not from plague, from heartbreak. She stopped eating after the first child died, stopped drinking. She just gave up. Let go. She dies in her sleep, peaceful at least. You bury her in the garden with her children. 5 graves, your entire family, gone in 6 weeks. You're alive. Why? You were exposed. You held your dying children. You buried their bodies. You breathed the same air as your coughing son. You should be dead, but you're not. Maybe you're immune. Maybe you're just lucky. Maybe God has cursed you to survive, to live with the memories, with the guilt. You wander your empty house. 5 bedrooms, all empty. The kitchen where your wife cooked, empty. The hall where your children played, empty. Their clothes are still in their rooms. Their toys, evidence they existed. You can't stay here, can't live among ghosts. You leave, walk out of your house, leave the door unlocked, leave everything. The furniture, the cloth in the warehouse, the money hidden under the floorboards, none of it matters. You walk through Florence, the streets are empty. Occasionally you see another person, gaunt, hollow-eyed, survivors. You don't speak to each other. What would you say? You walk to the cathedral, the Duomo. Brunelleschi's dome hasn't been built yet, won't be for another century, but the cathedral is there. You go inside, empty, no priest, no congregation, just empty space. You kneel, try to pray, can't. What would you pray for? Your family is dead. Praying won't bring them back. You pray anyway, not for yourself. For what? for it to end, for the plague to stop, for no more children to die, for no more mothers to bury their babies. You pray for hours, maybe days. Time doesn't mean anything. When you leave the cathedral, you don't know where to go. You just walk out of Florence into the countryside. Maybe you'll find somewhere untouched, somewhere clean, somewhere you can forget. You won't forget. Nobody forgets the Black Death. Let's talk numbers. Real numbers. The Black Death enters Europe in 1347. By 1353, it has swept across the entire continent. 6 years. In that time, somewhere between 75 million and 200 million people die. The range is huge because record keeping is terrible. Whole towns vanish. No one left to record who died. Conservative estimates say 1/3 of Europe's population dies. More liberal estimates say 1/2. Some regions lose up to 90% of their population. Cities fare worse than countryside usually. Density, more people, more rats, more fleas, more transmission. But nowhere is safe. The plague reaches Iceland, Greenland, the farthest corners of Europe. It reaches the Middle East, Egypt, North Africa, Central Asia. It circles back on itself. Places that were hit in 1348 get hit again in 1349 and 1350. The plague becomes endemic. It never really leaves. It flares up, localizes outbreaks. A city loses 10% of its population to a small outbreak. Then another city. Then another. For the next 300 years, plague is a constant threat. It won't be until the 19th century that it finally fades in Europe. But that first wave, 1347 to 1353, that's the killer. That's the Black Death proper. The death toll is almost incomprehensible. To put it in modern terms, imagine if a disease killed 2.6 billion people in 6 years. That's the proportional equivalent. Every third person you know, dead. Actually every second person in some places. Think about everyone you know, family, friends, co-workers, neighbors. Now imagine half of them dead, in 6 years, from the same disease. Can you imagine it? You can't. Nobody can. It's too big, too terrible. That's why this history feels distant, unreal, numbers on a page. But it was real. It happened. To real people with real lives. Real children who died screaming. Real mothers who buried their babies. Real fathers who lost everything. Real communities that vanished. Real cities that became graveyards. The economic effects last for centuries. So many people dead, so much labor lost. But here's the interesting part. The survivors, they benefit. If you live through the Black Death, if you survive to 1355, you're entering a different world. Before the plague, labor is cheap. Peasants are everywhere. If you're a landowner, you can pay workers almost nothing. They have no choice. Work for pennies or starve. After the plague, half the workers are dead. Labor is suddenly valuable. Peasants can demand wages. Actual wages. Good wages. Landowners need workers. Desperate for workers. They pay. The standard of living for surviving peasants increases dramatically. They eat better. Dress better. Live better. Sounds good, right? The rich hate it. The nobility. The landowners. They're losing control. They try to pass laws, freeze wages, freeze prices, bind peasants to the land, prevent them from leaving, to find better work. These laws mostly fail. The economic reality is too strong. Workers have leverage. They use it. This shifts the power structure. The rigid feudal system starts cracking. Peasants have mobility, options, freedom almost. The nobility resist. Violently sometimes, but the trend is clear. The Black Death accidentally creates the conditions for the end of feudalism, for the rise of a wage economy, for social mobility. Within a century the Renaissance begins. Why? Because the survivors of the plague have wealth. Peasants have money to spend. Merchants have customers. Artisans can charge more. This wealth creates a market for art, for beauty, for new ideas. The Renaissance is in a weird way built on the graves of plague victims. The psychological and cultural effects are just as profound. After the Black Death, art changes. Literature changes. Before the plague, art is hopeful, religious, focused on heaven. salvation, the afterlife. After the plague, art becomes obsessed with death. The macabre, skeleton motifs, the Danes macabre, the Danes of death. Paintings and woodcuts showing skeletons dancing with the living, kings, popes, peasants, children, all dancing with death. The message death comes for everyone. No one is exempt. This theme dominates late medieval art. Memento mori, remember death. Vanitas paintings. Skulls, hourglasses, wilting flowers. Everything is temporary. Everything ends. It's a culture traumatized by plague, working through grief through art. Literature gets darker too. The Decameron by Boccaccio is set during the plague. A group of young people flee Florence, hide in a villa, tell each other stories to pass the time. While outside, people die. The frame story is plague. The stories they tell are often dark, cynical, mocking clergy, mocking authority. It's post-plague literature. Authority failed. The church failed. God seemed absent. Why respect anything? Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, written later in the century, shows a world where everyone is corrupt. The pardoner sells fake relics. The friar sleeps with women. The miller is drunk and vulgar. It's comedy, but bitter comedy. The world the plague created. Even religion changes. The Black Death creates a split. Some people become more religious, more intense. If death is always near, if the afterlife is imminent, then salvation is paramount. You see extreme devotion, mysticism, saints and visionaries, people claiming direct communion with God. At the same time, others become less religious, cynical. The plague proved God isn't interventionist, or doesn't exist, or doesn't care. Why be pious? Why follow rules? You see the early seeds of secularism, of questioning, of doubt. The Reformation is still 150 years away, but the Black Death sets the stage. Let's talk about something the history books often skip. The smell, the constant, pervasive, inescapable smell of death. You're living in a plague city. Bodies are everywhere, in houses, in streets, in churches, mass graves on the outskirts. Those graves are shallow, poorly covered. The smell seeps up. Worse in summer. Heat accelerates decay. The smell of rotting human flesh is distinctive. Sweet, sickly. Once you smell it, you never forget it. It's not just outside, it's inside too. Your neighbor died 3 days ago. The body is still in the house. No one will remove it. Too dangerous. The smell seeps through walls, into your home, into your clothes, into your food. You can't escape it. You try. People hold flowers to their noses. Herbs, spices, anything with a strong smell. The wealthy carry pomanders, small metal balls filled with aromatic substances. They hold them up constantly. Breathing through the pomander instead of directly, it helps a little, not enough. The smell is everywhere. In the water, the wells are contaminated. Bodies in the water, the wells of seepage from mass graves nearby. The water tastes wrong, smells wrong. You have to boil it. Doesn't help the smell much. You drink it anyway. What choice do you have? The smell is in the air. Constantly. You get used to it. That's the worst part. After a few weeks, you stop noticing. The smell of death becomes normal. Background. You're walking past dead bodies and barely noticing. That's how broken you become. How desensitized. This is normal now. Death everywhere. The smell everywhere. Just part of life. Let's discuss the animals. What happens to them during the Black Death? Pets first. Dogs and cats. People have them. Love them. Then the plague hits. Theory emerges. Animals spread plague. Cats especially. They're suspicious. Nocturnal. Independent. Witchy. They must be spreading disease. Cities order. Cat extermination. Mass killings of cats. Thousands. Dogs too. All pets are suspect. People comply. Kill their own pets. Better safe than sorry. Here's the irony. Cats kill rats. Rats carry fleas. Fleas spread plague. By killing cats, cities are removing their best defense against rats. Rat populations explode. More rats. More fleas. More plague. The cities that kill their cats fare worse. But nobody realizes this. The theory makes sense to medieval minds. Animals are suspicious, must be involved. Kill them. Cities that somehow keep their cats do better. Venice. Notably, Venice has a large cat population. Valued for keeping rats away from grain stores, Venice suffers from plague, but not as badly as other cities. The cats help, but most cities kill their cats and suffer more. Livestock dies too. Not from plague, usually, from neglect. Farmers die. Who feeds the animals? Who tends them? Cows, sheep, pigs, left to fend for themselves. Some survive, go feral, others die, starve, or are slaughtered by desperate, hungry people. The 1349 harvest is terrible, partially because there are no oxen to pull ploughs. The oxen died, or were eaten. Can't plant properly without them. The agricultural system collapses. Even if you survive the plague, you might starve. Horses die in huge numbers, not from plague, from anthrax. Plague creates conditions for other diseases. Dead bodies everywhere, rotting, perfect breeding ground for anthrax spores. Horses eat contaminated grass, get anthrax, die. No horses means no transportation, no cavalry, no ploughing. The military is affected, commerce is affected, everything is connected, everything collapses together. Now let's talk about the children. Specifically, children suffer horribly during the Black Death. They're vulnerable, weaker immune systems, less resistance. They die in huge numbers, disproportionate numbers. In some towns, child mortality reaches 70 or 80%. 3 out of 4 children die. Think about that. If you have 4 kids in 1347, you probably have 1 by 1350, maybe none. Children don't understand what's happening. They're scared. They see adults dying, their parents dying, siblings dying. They don't have the context, the coping mechanisms, just pure fear. Some children are orphaned. Parents die, children survive. Now what? Extended family might take them. If extended family is alive, if they'll risk taking in potentially infected children, many won't. Too dangerous. Orphans wander streets, begging, starving, dying. Some cities try to set up orphanages. Overwhelmed immediately. Dozens of children. Hundreds. No resources. No staff. The orphanage workers die. Children are left alone. Locked in. They die together. Some children watch their entire family die. Mother, father, siblings, grandparents, everyone. The child is left alive, alone in a house full of corpses. What does that do to a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old? The psychological damage is permanent. Those who survive are traumatized. Forever. Some children are abandoned. Parents flee, leave the children behind. Sometimes because the children are sick. Sometimes because the parents are sick and don't want to infect the children. Sometimes because the parents are selfish. Scared, they run. The children wake up alone. Parents gone. Maybe there's food, maybe not. They wait for parents to return. Parents don't return. Child stays in the house. Days, weeks, eating whatever's there. When the food runs out, they venture outside. If they're brave. Some children just stay inside. Wait, die of starvation next to plenty. Too afraid to leave. Some child survivors band together, form groups, for all children, living in abandoned buildings, stealing food. Some of these groups become violent, criminal. What do you expect? They've lost everything. Society abandoned them. They owe society nothing. Let's talk about what you would actually do. You, modern person, transported to 1348. You have your knowledge, your education, your understanding of germ theory. You know plague is bacterial. You know it's spread by fleas, by rats, by close contact with infected people. You know about quarantine, about hygiene, about avoiding the sick. Would it save you? Probably not. Here's why. You can't explain germ theory to medieval people. They don't have the framework. You say tiny invisible creatures cause disease. They hear evil spirits, or demons. Or they think you're insane. You say rats spread plague through fleas. They might believe the rat part. Rats are suspicious. But fleas? Fleas are everywhere. Everyone has fleas. How could fleas cause this? Makes no sense to them. Even if you convince your family, maybe your close friends, what good does it do? You're living in a city, a medieval city, packed with people, packed with rats. You can't avoid exposure. You'd need to quarantine yourself. Completely. Lock yourself in your house. No contact with anyone. No going outside. For years. Because plague keeps coming back. Wave after wave. You'd need food. Water. Someone has to bring it. The moment someone brings you supplies, you're exposed. That person might be infected. Might have fleas in their clothes. You can't risk it. But you also can't starve. You'd need to kill rats. All of them. In your house. Your neighborhood. Impossible. Medieval homes are perfect for rats. Dirt floors. Thatched roofs. Food storage. Rats everywhere. You can't eliminate them. You'd need modern rat poison. Traps. Sealed homes. Don't exist. You try to practice hygiene. Wash your hands. But with what? There's no running water. No soap as you know it. Medieval soap is lye-based. Harsh. Not particularly effective. The water itself is contaminated. You'd need to boil all water. Constantly. That requires fuel, wood, coal, expensive. You're using all your resources just to have clean water. You'd try to avoid the sick. Easier said than done. Your neighbor is sick. Coughing in the next house over. The walls are thin. You share a wall. You breathe the same air. Your neighbor's fleas don't respect property lines. They migrate, through cracks, through windows, into your house. You try to stay away from crowds, but you need food. Markets are crowded. The only source of food. You have to go, have to be around people, around potential infection. You'd try to convince authorities to implement quarantine, isolation of the sick. They might try. Medieval cities do try some quarantine measures. Doesn't work well. Enforcement is lax. People cheat, sneak out, visit infected relatives. The quarantines are often counterproductive. Lock infected people in their homes with healthy family members. Everyone in the house gets infected. Everyone dies. You might survive longer than average. Your knowledge helps, a little. You avoid the obviously sick. You wash. You keep rats away as much as possible. You might last months instead of weeks, but eventually, you're getting exposed. The environment is too contaminated. The plague is too pervasive, too efficient. You're going to get bitten by an infected flea, or breathe in droplets from a pneumonic case, or touch something contaminated. And then, you're dying just like everyone else. Your modern immune system might be slightly better, or might be worse. You haven't been exposed to medieval diseases. Your immune system is naive to those pathogens. You might die faster, from plague or from any number of other infections you'd encounter. Even if you survive plague, you're facing dysentery, typhus, typhoid, smallpox, measles. Medieval Europe is a disease buffet. You're probably dying of something, if not plague, something else. Let's be very specific about your physical suffering. If you get plague, day by day, hour by hour, you're bitten by an infected flea. You don't notice. Flea bites are normal. Everyone has them. This one feels like any other. Maybe a little itchier. Within hours, the bacteria are in your lymphatic system, traveling, multiplying. You feel nothing yet. Maybe some tiredness. Might be anything. Didn't sleep well. Worked hard. Nothing concerning. 24 hours post-infection. You wake up feeling off. Can't pinpoint why. Just wrong. Your head aches slightly. Your back aches. You ignore it. Go about your day. By evening the ache is worse. Your back feels like you were beaten. Your head is pounding. You're cold. Shivering. You pile on blankets. Still cold. Your spouse feels your forehead. You're burning up. Fever. High fever. Must be getting sick. You go to bed early. Can't sleep. The pain. The fever. You drift in and out of consciousness. Hour 36. The fever is worse. 104 degrees. You're hallucinating. Seeing things. The room is spinning. You try to stand. You collapse. Too weak. Your joints are on fire. Every movement is agony. You feel a pain in your groin. Deep. Aching. You reach down. There's a lump. Small. Hard. Painful to touch. Oh no. You know what this is. Everyone knows. Bubo. You have plague. You tell your spouse. She screams. Cries. Runs from the room. You're alone. Day 2. The bubo is growing. Golf ball sized now. The pain is constant. Throbbing. Sharp. You can't lie on that side. can't stand, can't sit comfortably. The fever is relentless. You're drenched in sweat. Your blankets are soaked. You're shaking with chills. Your teeth chatter. You're desperate for water. You drink and drink. It's never enough. You're dehydrated from fever, from sweating. Your lips crack. Your tongue swells. Another bubo appears. This one in your armpit. Smaller. For now, the pain in your groin makes you scream. You can't help it. You try to be quiet. Think of your children. Don't want to scare them. You scream anyway. Can't control it. Hour 60. You're delirious. The fever is destroying your brain. You're talking to people who aren't there. Dead relatives. Saints. Demons. They feel real. Your mother died years ago. She's sitting on your bed, talking to you, comforting you. You know she's not real, but she's there. You talk back. Your spouse hears you, thinks you're losing your mind. You are. The bubos are apple-sized now, both of them. The skin is stretched tight, shiny, purple-black. They look alien, wrong, tumor-like growths that shouldn't exist. You touch one, immediately regret it. The pain is electric, shooting through your body. You vomit from the pain. There's nothing in your stomach but you keep retching. Bile, acid, blood, streaks of blood in the vomit. That's new. That's bad. Day 3. The bubos might burst today. The pressure is immense. You want them to burst. The pain is too much. You also don't want them to burst. You've seen what happens. The smell, the fluids, the mess. The bubo in your groin bursts first. No warning, just ruptures. Thick, yellow-green pus, mixed with dark blood, pours out. The smell makes you gag, makes your spouse, watching from the doorway, retch and flee. The relief is immediate. The pressure's gone. The sharp pain dulls to a throb. You can breathe. For a few minutes, you feel better. Then the pain returns. Different pain. The wound is open, raw, infected. The tissue around it is dying, turning black. Necrosis, gangrene. Your inner thigh is rotting. You can see it, watch it happen in real time. The black spreads, hour by hour, inch by inch. Your flesh is dying while you're still alive. The smell is indescribable. Rot, death, sewage. It permeates everything. You can't escape it. It's you. You're the source of the smell. Day 4. You're dying, you know it. Everyone knows it. Your family won't come near you. Too afraid, too disgusted. You're alone. The fever is still high. Your brain is cooked. You're barely conscious. You drift. Sometimes you're aware, sometimes you're not. When you're aware, the pain is unbearable. You wish you weren't aware. The bubo in your armpit burst during the night. Your shirt is glued to your body with dried pus and blood. You can't move your arm. The pain, the stiffness. You're bleeding from your nose. Constant trickle. Dark, thick blood. Almost black. You're coughing. Wet, rattling coughs. Each cough brings up blood. Clots of it. You're drowning. You can feel fluid in your lungs. Each breath is harder. You're gasping. Can't get enough air. Your lips are blue. Your fingernails are blue. You're not getting oxygen. Your extremities are cold. Your hands, your feet, they're turning black. Not from buboes, from gangrene, from septicemia. Your blood is poisoned. Your entire circulatory system is failing. You can feel your heart struggling. Irregular beats. Fluttering. Stopping. Starting. It's working so hard, too hard. It can't keep up. Hour 100. You're barely there. More unconscious than conscious. When you surface, it's agony. Everything hurts. Your whole body is on fire, and frozen, and being crushed, and torn apart, all at once. You can't scream anymore. No voice left, just whimpers, gasps. Your breathing is very slow. Long pauses between breaths. Agonal breathing. Death breathing. Your family is outside the door, listening, waiting. They won't come in. Can't. You understand. You don't blame them. You're infectious. A plague vector. Even dying, you're dangerous. Day 5, early morning. You take a breath, a long rattling breath. You exhale. You don't inhale again. Your heart stops. Your brain shuts down. You're gone. It's over. The suffering is finally over, but you're still dangerous. Your corpse is teeming with bacteria. Billions of them. Fleas in your clothes, in your hair. Anyone who touches your body risks infection. Your family knows this. They don't touch you, don't prepare your body, don't wash you, don't dress you for burial. They wrap you in the blanket you died in, drag you outside, try not to touch your skin. A cart comes by later that day, ringing bells, bring out your dead. Your body is thrown onto the pile, 30 other bodies, 40, you're driven to a mass grave, thrown in, no ceremony, no prayer, just into the pit. Lime is poured over you, earth is shoveled on top, you're gone, forgotten, one of millions. This is why you wouldn't survive the Black Death. Not because you're weak, not because you lack courage, because the Black Death is impossible to survive in medieval conditions. Even with modern knowledge, you can't overcome medieval reality. The plague is too efficient, too pervasive, the environment is too contaminated, the population density too high, the hygiene too poor, the medical care too primitive, the social structure too fragile. Everything conspires against survival. Your only real chance? Don't be there. Don't be in Europe between 1347 and 1353. That's it. That's the survival strategy. Time travel before the plague or after. If you're there during, you're probably dying. Maybe you're one of the lucky ones. The ones with natural immunity. About 10% of people have a genetic mutation that makes them resistant to plague. The CCR5 delta 32 mutation. If you have it, plague bacteria can't enter your cells efficiently. You might get infected, but survive. Unfortunately, you probably don't know if you have this mutation. Modern genetic testing wasn't available in 1348. You find out by either dying or not dying. Russian roulette with bacteria. The Black Death is the worst pandemic in human history. Killed more people than any other single epidemic. More than the Spanish flu, more than AIDS, more than anything. 1/3 to 1/2 of an entire continent. Dead in 6 years. The horror of it, the scale of it, the randomness of it. It broke the medieval world. Society never recovered. Not really. The world after the Black Death is fundamentally different than the world before. The Renaissance, the Reformation, the Age of Exploration, all of it built on the ruins of the plague years. On the graves of millions, on the trauma of survivors, who created art because beauty is defiance, who questioned religion because God seemed absent, who sought new worlds because the old world died. We remember the Black Death as history, a thing that happened, past tense, safe behind centuries. But it was real, it happened to real people. People like you. They woke up in the morning, made breakfast, went to work, loved their families, had dreams, plans, futures, and then the plague came, and everything ended. Their children died in their arms, their spouses died alone, their friends vanished, their cities became graveyards, their world ended. They didn't have history books to tell them it would eventually pass, that Europe would recover, that the Renaissance was coming. They thought it was the end of the world, the apocalypse, the final days. Some areas lost 90% of their population. 9 out of 10 people dead. How does a community recover from that? Sometimes it doesn't. Villages that existed for centuries vanished, completely, everyone dead. Buildings rotted, fields overgrown, gone, erased. We know about the Black Death because people wrote about it. Survivors, witnesses, they documented the horror, tried to make sense of it. Boccaccio, Petrarch, anonymous chroniclers in monasteries and courts. They wrote what they saw, what they survived. Their words come down to us. 7 centuries later, we read them. We think we understand. We don't. We can't. We haven't lived through world-ending catastrophe. Haven't watched half of everyone we know die. Haven't buried our children in gardens. Haven't walked through streets lined with corpses. Haven't smelled death so constantly, it becomes normal. We're lucky, incredibly lucky. We live in a time of antibiotics, vaccines, modern medicine, public health infrastructure. We understand disease, can treat it, prevent it. The Black Death couldn't happen now, not like that, not with that death toll. We're protected by centuries of medical advancement, by knowledge bought with millions of lives. The people of 1348 paid the price so we could learn, could develop, could survive. But here's a thought. A dark one. We're not as safe as we think. COVID-19 proved that a novel pathogen can still shut down the world, can still kill millions, can still create fear and social breakdown. We had vaccines, had antivirals, had modern hospitals and ICUs and ventilators, and we still struggled, still lost millions, still saw supply chains collapse and society strain. Now imagine COVID-19. Without modern medicine, without vaccines, without understanding, that's closer to the Black Death, and it's terrifying. We think we're advanced, we are, but we're also fragile. Our systems are complex, interdependent, fragile. Remove one piece, and the whole thing threatens to collapse. We saw that with COVID. Toilet paper shortages, food shortages, medical supply shortages, hospitals overwhelmed, and that was with all our advantages. The Black Death is a reminder, a warning from history. Pandemics happen, they're catastrophic. They don't care about your plans, your dreams, your family. They kill indiscriminately, efficiently, horribly, and there's no guarantee we'll always have the tools to stop them. Antibiotic resistance is growing, bacteria evolving, becoming harder to treat. What happens when antibiotics stop working, when infections become untreatable? We're heading back toward a pre-antibiotic world, slowly, incrementally, but heading there. And that world, that's the Black Death's world, where a bacterial infection is a death sentence, where plague is incurable, where survival is luck. We need to remember the Black Death, not just as history, as warning, as reminder of what can happen, what has happened, what might happen again if we're not careful. If we don't protect our medical infrastructure, don't develop new antibiotics, don't maintain public health systems, the Black Death killed half of Europe. It can't happen now, unless it can, unless we let it. Let me end with one more story. A specific story. Real story. A man named Guy de Chauliac. He was a physician, famous in his time, papal physician in Avignon. When the plague hit Avignon in 1348, he stayed, most physicians fled. He stayed, treated patients, documented the disease. He wrote about it, described the symptoms in medical detail, the timeline, the progression, the mortality rate. He got plague himself, bubonic plague. He survived, one of the lucky ones. His account of the plague is one of the best we have. Clinical, detailed, honest. He wrote the mortality was so great that the living were scarcely able to bury the dead. He described how everyone was afraid, how people wouldn't help each other, how charity died with compassion. He wrote about treating patients, knowing he'd probably get infected, doing it anyway, because it was his duty, his calling. He described his own symptoms when he got sick, the fear, the pain, the certainty of death, and then survival, against all odds. He continued practicing medicine after recovery, continued treating plague victims in later outbreaks. He died in 1368, of natural causes, not plague. He spent 20 years after the Black Death, serving others, risking his life repeatedly. Why? Because someone had to, because he could, because the alternative was to let everyone die. Guy de Chauliac is a hero, one of many unnamed, unremembered heroes who stayed when they could have fled, who helped when they could have hidden, who maintained their humanity when the world was ending. They're the reason some survived, the reason knowledge was preserved, the reason we know what happened. They paid the price, they took the risk. Many died. Guy de Chauliac lived, but he could have died. He knew that. He stayed anyway. That's the other side of the Black Death. Not just horror, not just death, but courage, sacrifice, humanity persisting in impossible circumstances. We've been on this journey for a while now, through the streets of plague cities, through the suffering of victims, through the collapse of society, through the death of millions. It's been dark, it's been horrible, it's been real. This happened. This was the Black Death, and you wouldn't have survived it. Almost nobody would. Modern knowledge wouldn't save you. Modern toughness wouldn't save you. Modern medicine, if you could bring it back in time, might save you. Might, but probably not. The environment is too hostile. The disease too efficient. Your best case scenario is isolation. Complete isolation. For years. No contact with anyone. No trips to the market. No helping neighbors. no family gatherings, just you, alone, for years. Maybe you survived the plague that way. But what kind of survival is that? Living in fear, in isolation, in loneliness, while everyone you know dies. Is that really survival? Or is it just prolonged suffering? These are the questions the Black Death forces. These are the impossible choices it presents. There are no good answers, just less bad ones. The people of the 14th century faced these choices, made these decisions. Most died. Some survived. The survivors carried scars, physical, psychological, cultural. Those scars shaped the next centuries, shaped the modern world. We're living in a world shaped by plague, by death, by survival, by the decisions made in the darkest times. The Black Death is history, but it's also warning, also reminder, also lesson, about fragility, about mortality, about what matters when everything is stripped away. Remember it, learn from it, and be grateful. Grateful you don't live in that time. Grateful you have antibiotics, vaccines, modern medicine. Grateful you can walk through streets without fear of plague. Grateful you can love your family without fearing their death tomorrow. We're lucky, incredibly, impossibly lucky. Never forget that. Never take it for granted. Because the Black Death proved that everything can be taken away. Everything can end. Everyone can die. In an instant. In 6 years. All of it. Gone. You wouldn't survive the Black Death. Nobody would. Not really. But you don't have to. You live now. In this time. That's the gift. That's the miracle. Don't waste it. Before we close, I want to give you some perspective on what the world looked like after. When the plague finally began to subside. When the death toll stabilized. When survivors started to emerge from hiding. Started to rebuild. Europe in 1353 is unrecognizable compared to 1347. Entire regions are empty. Villages vanished. Fields returned to forest. Buildings crumbling. No one to maintain them. The population has been cut by a third, by half in some areas. There aren't enough people to do the work, to maintain infrastructure, to run society. Some cities that were major centers become backwaters. The plague hit them harder. They never recover. Other cities that somehow escape the worst become new centers of power. It's a reshuffling of the entire social order. The church is weakened, fatally in some ways. People saw priests die, saw prayers go unanswered, saw the church fail to protect them. Faith doesn't disappear, but it changes, becomes more personal, less institutional. The seeds of the Protestant Reformation are planted here, in the plague years. When institutional religion failed, the feudal system is dying. Labor is too valuable. Peasants have options. Mobility. The rigid hierarchy can't hold. Within a century, serfdom is basically gone in Western Europe. The wage economy replaces it. Capitalism is being born. In the ruins of plague, art and culture explode. The Renaissance is coming. Why? Because the plague made life precious, made people value beauty, creativity, human achievement. Because death was everywhere, life becomes more valuable. The generation that survives the plague creates the Renaissance. Their children and grandchildren. They're determined to make something beautiful, something lasting, something that says we were here, we survived, we made this. The plague doesn't just destroy, it transforms, changes everything, forever. The modern world is built on those changes, on that foundation of death and survival, and renewal. Medical knowledge advances, slowly, painfully, but it advances. Physicians who survived started questioning old theories. The four humors clearly don't explain plague. What does? They don't know, not yet, but they're asking questions, they're observing, recording. The scientific method is embryonic, but it's there, born from the failure of medieval medicine to handle plague. Centuries later, this leads to germ theory, to antibiotics, to vaccines. The Black Death kills millions, but it also teaches, harshly. The lesson is learned eventually. Public health becomes a concern. Cities start thinking about sanitation, about clean water, about waste management. Not immediately, not effectively at first, but the idea is there. that government has a role in protecting public health, that disease is a community problem, requiring community solutions. These ideas grow, slowly, over centuries. They lead to modern public health, to the systems that protect us now. The Black Death is in our DNA, literally, that CCR5 delta 32 mutation I mentioned. It's common in European populations, rare or absent in populations that didn't experience the Black Death, because plague selected for it. The people with the mutation survived, had children, passed it on. The people without it died, didn't reproduce. Evolution in action, brutal, efficient. The Black Death shaped the human genome, changed what it means to be European. On a genetic level, we carry the plague with us. In our genes, in our history, in our culture. It's part of who we are, part of what made the modern world. We can't escape it, shouldn't try to escape it, should remember it, honor it, learn from it. The millions who died, they're not just statistics. They're our ancestors, our history, our legacy. They suffered so we could exist, could have the world we have, could have the knowledge we have. We owe them memory, we owe them understanding, we owe them the commitment to do better, to not let it happen again, to protect each other, to maintain the systems that keep us safe. That's how we honor the dead of the Black Death, not with monuments, with vigilance, with compassion, with community, with the determination to survive. Together. I started this by telling you that you wouldn't survive the Black Death. I stand by that. You wouldn't. The conditions are too harsh, the disease too deadly, the lack of modern medicine too absolute. But I also want you to understand something else, something important. The people of the 14th century weren't weaker than you, weren't less intelligent, weren't less capable. They were you, just in different circumstances, with different knowledge, different tools. They were humans, just like you, trying to survive, trying to protect their families, trying to make sense of an incomprehensible horror. They failed, mostly. Not because they were weak, because the Black Death was too strong. You would fail too. I would fail. Anyone would fail. That's not a judgment, it's a fact. But here's the thing, some survived. Not many, but some. Through luck, through isolation, through genetic immunity, through sheer random chance. They survived, and they rebuilt, they created, they moved forward. They didn't let the plague win. Not completely. Yes, it killed millions. Yes, it destroyed their world. But it didn't destroy humanity, didn't destroy Thope, didn't destroy the human capacity to adapt, to survive, to create meaning from suffering. That's the real lesson of the Black Death. Not that pandemics are horrible, we know that, but that humans are resilient. Even in the face of apocalyptic death, even when the world ends, we survive, we adapt, we rebuild, we remember, we learn, we grow. The Black Death was the worst pandemic in history, and we survived it, as a species, as a culture, as a civilization. It changed us, shaped us, made us what we are, but it didn't break us. Not ultimately. That's worth remembering. When things seem dark, when pandemics threaten, when the future seems uncertain, we've been here before, worse than here. We've faced the abyss, we've stared into the void, and we've survived. We've come back. We've built something beautiful from the ruins. We can do it again, if we have to, if we remember, if we learn, if we hold on to our humanity, even when everything else is stripped away. Thank you for staying with me through this journey, through the darkness, through the horror, through the death. I know it wasn't easy. The Black Death isn't an easy topic. It's nightmare fuel. It's the stuff of trauma, but it's also history, real history, our history, and it's important to remember, important to understand, important to learn from. If you made it this far, if you're still here, I appreciate it. Really, this video was long, deliberately. I wanted to give the Black Death the time it deserves, the detail, the respect. Too often history reduces the plague to a number. 25 million dead, 50 million dead, 75 million dead. But they weren't numbers, they were people. Each one a story, a life, dreams cut short, families destroyed, futures erased. They deserve to be remembered as people, not statistics. I hope I did that. Hope I made this real for you. Visceral. Uncomfortable. Even. Because it should be uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable to live through. It's uncomfortable to study, to imagine, to understand. That discomfort is appropriate. It's the price of knowledge, of remembering. If you enjoyed this deep investigation into one of history's darkest chapters, please like this video. Subscribe for more historical deep dives. Let me know in the comments what historical event you want me to cover next. What period? What plague, war, disaster, moment that changed everything? I read all the comments. I take suggestions seriously. You help shape what comes next. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for remembering with me. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Stay grateful for modern medicine. And remember, you wouldn't survive the Black Death, but you don't have to. You're here, now in this time. Make it count. Until next time.